Hi guys, this is Math 116, section 1.4, and the topic is graphs. So you should be able to graph functions using either your TI-84 or if you're online, you can use one of the nice graphing calculator applications or websites. But the main thing that I want you to be able to do for a test is to be able to interpret a graph. So I have a couple examples of problems. So the first one on graphing functions. So I am looking at question number 20, which one is this? It's 31. Question number 31 on the 10th edition of the textbook, which essentially asks you to graph this function right here. Come on, graphing. This is the problem with graphing apps. Here you go. 12x squared minus 12 divided by x squared plus 1. So I typed in the equation here, and this is myhrw.com. I'll send you guys the link. And if you want, for this one, it's easy to change the settings. So if you decided you didn't like having all this extra space over here, you could say, well, I only want x to go from maybe 6 to negative 6, like that. You can hit graph again, and it does that. Okay, I want to see all the way down, so I want y to go to maybe minus 20. Let's try minus 20 and maximum of 10. Aha! We'll graph that. See who does that. That's pretty. So this is a program you can play around with to graph. I also like this one, Desmos Graphing Calculator. I have no money in either one of these programs, so use them or don't, I don't care. So I typed in the formula here. Again, this is question 31, 12x squared minus 12 divided by x squared plus 1. For this one, you can kind of drag your mouse around to see the various points, and then you can zoom in or not. This one, for me, it's a little harder to change the scale, but I'm sure there's a way to do it. So if you care about messing around with that, you're welcome to. So those are two computer websites where you can graph the functions. You should also be able to do this on your TI-84, but again, I'm not going to test you on your graphing with the calculator. So you're not going to be tested on graphing with the calculator. It's just, to me, that's not a particularly interesting application of the math. So you should be able to do a question like this though. Don't care, Fuji. So question number 41, this is earnings and gender in the 10th edition of the book. If you have the 9th edition, you can find the problem or you can just read along here. The U.S. Census Bureau gives us the following model: F equals 0.78 M minus 1.316, where M is the annual average earnings, that is the salary in thousands of dollars for males, and F is the annual salary in thousands of dollars for females. The first part says use a graphing utility to graph this with these two, like you're going from 0 to 70 for the men and 0 to 60 for the women. I'm going to take a short moment here and say, for those of you that are in a statistics class, this is very exciting, because what they did is they essentially, those of you that aren't in a statistics class, it's also exciting, they took the average annual salary for men and the average annual salary for women, and they essentially plotted it like this in a scatter plot. And then they said, we're going to find the line, the least squared regression line that goes in between them, and that line looks like this. Okay? So, but the question, part A, says use a graphing utility. So here is the equation. I typed it in here, and for part A, they say type in the minimum and maximum from 0 to 70. So I just typed in 0 to 70 and then 0 to 60. So you just put it in like that. So again, I'm not necessarily going to ask you to graph it with a window on your calculator, because that's a hard thing for me to grade. You should definitely recognize that this equation is the equation of a line. And you can tell that because x only has, it's not squared. See how x has an exponent of 1? It's just a single x, so that's the equation of a line. And here is the same equation. So 0.78x times 1.316. And I put it in this other graphing thing. So I'll zoom in like that. So you should recognize this as the equation of a line, and you should be able to graph a line. And then part B says the point 50, comma, 37.684 lies on the graph. Explain its meaning. So when they say it lies on the graph, 30, 40, 50, I'll zoom up here. That point, 50, 37.68, lies on the graph. What does that mean? Well, it means this. I wrote a sentence out. The answer: when men make an average of $50,000 per year, remember this is in thousands of dollars per year. So we're not saying when men equals 50. We're saying when men make an average of 50,000 per year, women make an average of 37,684 per year. So this would make an excellent multiple choice question, don't you think? And again, make sure you get the scale right. It's 50,000 per year, not when men equals 50 or something like that. So that's explain its meaning. If the question says explain its meaning, you want to come up with an answer sentence like this. So part C says find the average female earnings that correspond to male earnings of $62,500. So you could do this on the graph. You could say, well, I'm just going to scoot along here on my graph. I'll have to scoot up and keep following it until men equals 62,500. There? No. There? You see, it's a little hard to get. And then you could say, oh, 47.43. Do you see? 47.43. But in case you're having trouble with your calculator, I'll go back to my pen. So we had 47.43. If you're having trouble with your calculator, or if you just want to do it the old-fashioned way, what you could do to find this answer is to plug it into the equation of the line. So here's our equation of the line that was given in the problem. And part C is essentially asking, what is F when M is equal to $62,500 a year? You'll notice, because it's in thousands of dollars, now we have to plug into this equation M equals 62.5. Do not use 62,500 because that's in thousands of dollars and we have to scale it back. So when we plug in F, we say we're going to plug in now the number 62.5 minus 1.316. The answer is, yes, 47.434. So you do not want to write your answer as 47.434. You want to write your answer as $47,434 per year. Because remember, the question was asking you, find the average female earnings that correspond to male earnings of this. So the answer is, the average female earnings is $47,434. Maybe you're all mad, it's less, but save that anger for your conclusion. Just write this in your math problem. And so that is an example of the two types of things you should be able to do from this section: graph the functions and interpret the graphs. So those last two problems, something like this, is an interpret the graph problem.